Ethan Mishwer, and I'm in the 8th grade at Sims High School. And here's my project on the Civil Rights Movement. In February 1st, 1960, the Greensboro 4 event took place, the first of many sit-in protests to come during the Civil Rights Movement. There are many things that could have gone wrong for the Greensboro 4 if the protest had been violent. The 4 could have been lynched or killed in other means, or they would not have gathered the same amount of followers. Possibly the best part of the nonviolent protests was that the protests were legal in the modern saying of the Civil Rights Movement. Because of this, I believe that the Greensboro sit-in was effective because it was nonviolent. In February 1st, 1960, 4 students attending North Carolina A&T University arrived at the Woolworth store in Greensboro and sat at the whites-only lunch counter and ordered coffee. The 4 friends waited at the lunch counter and were never served. The 4 then returned to their dorm rooms where they gathered more followers. They later returned to the store, this time with 25 followers, who then took up their seats at the lunch counter. The 25 were armed with books and schoolwork that they used to spend the time as they sat at the lunch counter. The party remained at the counter until the store closed at 5 o'clock. This event was an example of how well the use of nonviolent protests work and another example of a protest that would have failed if it had been violent. There are many reasons why the Greensboro sit-in would have failed if it was a violent protest. One of the main problems would have been the amount of followers that the 4 managed to gather. If the protests had been violent, they would have been yes followers because there would be yes people that would go as far as physical confrontation to get their point across. This decrease of people would have been critical in the amount of impact the Greensboro 4 event made in the Civil Rights Movement. Due to the amount of nonviolent protests that followed after the Greensboro event. The sit-in protests that followed after the Greensboro event was the main reason for the event's success in the Civil Rights Movement. The Greensboro sit-in event was a major win for African Americans in the Civil Rights Movement. The event started a huge wave of sit-in protests in the South and caught the eye of people from different parts of the country. The 4 were successful in my opinion because they used nonviolent ways of protest to make their point. By using nonviolent ways of protest, the 4 managed to gather more followers and used methods that were legal in modern America. Yet most important, because the protests were nonviolent, the 4 did not open the door for more violent actions such as lynching.